Hello, hello, hello. This is Private Talk Podcast with Alexis, Texas, and we are back season 3. And today, Private Talk, we have the pleasure of having Chakabars on the couch. Hello and welcome, friends.
Yes.
It's been a long time coming. We spoke a little bit, sitting here, was that I don't really know how I came across you years ago, but it was something inspirational that made me stuck on your page, and I stopped there, and I've stayed there ever since. So I'm really happy that we would definitely get to see your face and actually meet the person behind your personality. You have a big one, and I love that, how open you are about your beliefs and where you come from, and kind of just how you are in life. So tell us a little bit more about what you've been up to, who you are. Let Private Talk get to know you a little bit more.
I've been doing many things. I feel like recently I've been working more in the capacity of a developer, because I think that while we have a lot of complaints about the governments of the world and the way things are running right now, without creating alternative systems for people to be able to live in, then those complaints are slightly annoying. I mean,
Because you can complain about it, but what are you doing about it?
right, like what are you actually changing? How are you moving people into a better space? And we know that what capitalism has done is been hiding its deficits and destroying the environment and doing lots of crazy things. But what does post-capitalism look like, or what does an alternative system? So I've been more, over the last 5-6 years, I've been more in the realms of developer. So building schools, hospitals, taking care of orphan children.
Amazing.
One of my most proudest things that I've done in recent years is I rescued an elephant from slavery, and I'm going to go and do that again. So
That's awesome. I think it's cool because it's one of those things. I think why at the time, for me, if I think about where I was in my life, the time frame that I'm saying when I first started following you is I was traveling a lot in the world and seeing other sides where it was really cool and very inspirational to see not only the culture of where you are, but to really appreciate it, not just what's shown to you from either social media or the media in general, because it's nothing what it really is. And myself of going to, I don't remember if it was Bali. I think it was Bali. I went to Bali and I did an elephant tour, and I have a picture with my friends, but after doing it, it was the saddest thing, but it was happy because I wanted to do it, but it was sad because you saw the elephants being slaved, and again, that's how they make their money. So it's you give and take, how do you, they're living off the land, but as, liking animals and, seeing that, they're working on these tours and they're not getting a break and they're not doing all those things. So you see things a little bit more differently from the other side when you're in it. So that's why I feel for you is having your reach and having your ability to do both is really cool to kind of, segregate myself to don't even, I said, I don't know how I found your page, but I'm happy that I did, but we are definitely two different walks of life, but have the same belief systems. And that's why I feel kind of what rooted us together.
I think a lot of the world exists in macro and microcosms. You look in, a lot of the time people are thinking and acting locally, and then when you travel, you then start to think globally, and you start to think across the whole world, and then other cultures become more interesting. I mean,
it's you take the rose-colored glasses off because you have nothing other than to see what the reality is, what you're in.
Right. Well, that was 2020 for a lot of people, where all of the clubs got shut down, all of the cinemas got shut down, all of the things that they used to do to escape where they were shut down, and then they had to be present. And so I, for a long time now, have been present, and that has allowed me to kind of, for instance, before, I've been to Thailand before because I go there to do boxing, but I'd seen the elephants before, but I never really went to go and inquire into how they were living and what was going on. And then when the world locked down, I was in Thailand, and so I just went to start seeing the elephants every day. And then I worked out how things were running, and I raised some money, and we freed one of them. She's now free in a sanctuary. She's 56, and she's living her best life.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's really cool. How do you go about doing something like that?
So in Thailand, elephants are taken, they're bred for working, and people will pay for the elephants and for that process. And like a young elephant, because they know they're going to get, because elephants can live to like 80 years. So a young elephant, they know they're going to get at least like 50, 60 working years out of. And, you know, each photo or each trek is like $5, $10. So you can see that adds up. So you've got to go to the owner and then ask to buy them. And then if they agree, you go to the government where the elephants are registered. And then you would transfer that elephant into your name or into a sanctuary. So the elephant that we bought was like $30,000. But there's another one that I want to get when I go back and free her, and I think that's going to be more like $80,000. And then they eat
what
a lot
makes
of food.
what makes the like number change? Is it because of the age?
You're right. The one I got was 55 or 54, and the one that I want to get is 11. And so she's a baby, an elephant. She's
so
huge.
So she would be a big ticket price because she could get a lot of money.
Right, but she was like, we had a real deep bond. The thing about elephants is they're huge pachyderm sentient beings. They're a keystone species. They can communicate in ways that we can't communicate. So they have a frequency range that we can't even access with really low vibrations. And so the communication with the elephant is more like a feeling than like actually speaking. Like they understand what you say if you train them to do that. But we had a really deep connection, and you know, to the point where when I left, she cried, and I got pictures of like her crying and stuff. And I was like, oh, so when I come back, she's gonna remember, because elephants have huge memory banks, and so
that's
I'm
really
excited
neat.
to do that.
That's really cool. I like that, because for me, it's like, you don't, like for myself, when I going there knowing that, I had a lot of empathy for what was going on, but you don't know how you can help. You don't know whatever. So I feel like there needs to be more, you know, conversations about how you can, where you can go and do those things, you know, because sometimes it is a little deterrent, because if going there is the only, you know, situation, sometimes not everybody has the means to do that as well as doing, you know, but it's cool to see what the capability of what you can do and what the process it takes.
You have as much power as you decide that you have. It's just a lot of the time people become apathetic because they decide that somebody else is supposed to be responsible for their personal life choices, or somebody else is supposed to be responsible for their life. So a lot of people think, they'll see a problem and they'll think, I can't solve that, and then it will make them depressed, because once you make an observation, you have an obligation, and then you end up in it like a kind of a spiritual battle. Me, when I see something, I'm just like, I want to fix it.
Have you always been that way from you were a child, or was there something that happened in your life that triggered you to go on this journey?
I feel like there was a few stages. I knew when I was younger that something wasn't right, and I didn't know what was.
With yourself or the world?
Both. I felt like myself had been conditioned into believing that selling drugs and like being aggressive, this was the way that I was supposed to be, but I knew that wasn't right within me. And then the world was like conditioning me to that place. And then I joined the military, and then I realized the world wasn't right, because the military is obviously violence and all of these things that have been kind of paid for by the people of the countries. Like that's what tax, like in this country, for instance, in the USA, 1/3 of every tax dollar gets spent on defense, right? And though that might be good if it's like protecting the borders, it's not good if you're like bombing loads of kids in Afghanistan, right? And so now I'm 19 and I'm in Iraq in a war. So then I was like, oh, definitely things aren't right, but it allowed me to realize that a lot of people, when they want something in the world, they just go and get it or go and take it. And so I'm like, well, if I want something peaceful to happen, I need to make it happen. I can't wish or just manifest. Like prayer only works if you put action behind it. So I'm like, ever since kind of I left the military, I've been making stuff happen.
So you feel like that kind of shaped kind of like who you saw that you didn't want to become because of what it stood for?
Definitely. And also seeing that power is not merely just an idea, it's something that you have to physically do. You can't just be like, I feel powerful and therefore I am, but you know, you're hiding behind Instagram when you need to be out on the streets doing something, right?
For sure. I mean, it's a powerful statement within itself. It's because it's like, a lot of people don't get to those realizations sometimes ever, you know, and unless you really are willing to really do the work, or you feel as something inside of you, like as it seems yourself, that is truly wrong and you can make a change, because it's about the hard work that you put in. It's about what, you know, breaking those barriers, because who else is going to do it? And that's kind of why I feel like also too why I gravitated, is because I kind of teeter the line of not knowing what my power really is to that extent, but knowing that I know I have power and I have beliefs in what the message is. So I feel like that's why, again, with the conversations here with Private Talk, it's like not everybody knows each other fully, but having the hard conversations of finding out what that means and where the synergy exists with each other is a beautiful thing.
I don't think any conversation is hard. And maybe if you've got emotional.
Well, I think for some people, people don't like to talk about certain topics, or the fact of like what the real problem, like issues are, of like knowing that, you know, you can, like you said, like I made the comment of not knowing that you could go to Bollywood, but you can do it if you want to put that behind it. But it's like, again, doing the work and knowing what that power really means and actually doing the work. And that's the most people don't want to do the work. Right. And so it's like kind of making that middleman kind of happen. And that's kind of like where I feel like with you being so vocal where you are, is kind of you being the middleman for your followers and who you've had that belief system kind of support what you're doing.
I think things become hard when you overthink. Like they say that procrastination is like masturbation. You're just fucking yourself, right? And a lot of the time people overthink themselves into inaction, and things become hard when you decide that you're not going to do anything about it. If you're going to do something about it, then there's a different type of hard, but at least it's like action is behind it and you have the positive reinforcement of seeing the results of your work. Whereas if it's just, for instance, you know, you see people at these Oscars and Grammys, and you'll get a comedian like Ricky Gervais, for instance, who will come up and start talking about pedophilia. And everybody's like, whoa, oh, I can't believe he's speaking about that, because they're not willing to actually address it that goes on and like take that out of
I mean, look at the world that we've lived in with all these like things coming out with powerful people having issues with those things. Is, you know what I mean? It's like that taboo. That's what I'm saying. Those things where it should be taboo for us to speak about, because it shouldn't happen, and it shouldn't be you know, hidden. It should be talked about in those things, because that's kind of where those things happen. Well,
I mean, there is that too, but I'm just saying that to say, a lot of the things that people don't want to speak about is because they're not willing to do anything about it. And that's, oh my, you're telling me about this, I don't want to know about this. Let's speak about something different. And I think 2020 for a lot of people, they had to confront issues that they were able to run away from before. And now there's nowhere to run. So it's like Erykah Badu say, when you can't go outside, go inside. And a lot of people had to go inside and deal with their own shit.
I agree with that, myself included. You know, I had a lot of things that, because being so busy and on the road and whatever, is like you deal with things, you know, surfacely because you have to, and it's every day, you know, you go day by day, and that's just what it is. But there's a lot of things when everything was calm, and still there was things that I hadn't worked with or dealt with or didn't even know were even issues, because there wasn't quiet time. There was always static, because I created that, because I wanted to have something to make me not deal with those issues. So it's like one of those where it's like, so I see the change of like having to do that and the work. It's fascinating to see how they put in the work to doing now, and like what you stand by. So that's kind of also too, like with you, is me, you know, following you years ago, I feel like even some of your views and your beliefs have kind of changed from me being a fan of yours before. And so at a certain time, I know that you made a post, and I was like, I understand that people change and stuff like that, but it's like also, and then you're not a judgmental person at all, but it's like our parallels are so different too. Was a question of, I've done pornography, I've done sex, I've done all these things that I'm open about too, and not that you haven't done those things or been vocal too, it's but now your stigma or your viewpoint now, it seems more negative about that. So for me, it was, how do you still become or be so nice to me and things like that if your viewpoint changed on those things?
Because, I mean, this is the thing. You aren't that industry, right? My partner, she's an actress. and she's a model. She is not that industry. She's not in boardrooms making the decisions as to what is next done in that space or place. People, I can love people and I can love individuals without loving systems that support the, I suppose, the
structure or
that support dissent from spirituality, right? So I would say that, for instance, the music industry shouldn't be an industry because music is of the spirit and the voice is spirit. It's become an industry, so now people are making TikTok videos that then become songs that then become garbage that everybody has to listen to all the time, right? And the reality is that actually I don't believe that it should be a space where things of the spirit should be commercialized. I think things of the spirit should be not industrialized to the point where now people who aren't creative, like corporations, are controlling creativity because they're now influencing. We've got all this trash music, we've got these trash movies, we've got all of this trash coming out, and it's like the blind leading the blind. It's people who don't really know what spirituality is, or they're not connecting with their spiritual self, now sitting in boardrooms and making decisions for people who do know what that is, and now the people who did know what that is before are now having to play into a game of people who don't know what they're doing. So now it's like everybody doesn't really know what they're doing. And I think with pornography, I think pornography is not just sex, right? For instance, if I put on my Instagram now a black man being shot to death by a white police officer, it will stay up there, right? But that is violence pornography. It's a type of pornography. If I was to put sex on my Instagram, that would be taken down. Some people are making decisions as to what is okay and what is not okay. And usually the people who are making those decisions aren't right, right?
Yeah.
So like the people who influence health in the country, for instance, the people who decide what goes on with agriculture and what goes on with food aren't healthy themselves. And so I don't have any issue with individuals per se unless they're harming others.
But isn't part of what the content that you say that is harming others something that I'm partaking in? Because for me, is I pride myself off being in tune with my sexuality, and I'm a spiritual person as well, and I no longer shoot porn for the last 5 years either, but I also still connect with my sexuality, and I don't use it as a stigma for something. It's how I express myself. And so that's why for me it's like, but if I'm also part of the problem because of I'm feeding into the play of what you're saying, is where do you draw that line? Because how am I not somewhat of the problem in your view?
I mean, I am not God, right?
Facts. And that's what I'm saying. I wasn't, the conversation here wasn't meant for that either, but it was just, I've always been connected to you. And even after the comment, I never strayed, and I still follow and I still support everything that you do. But as myself and me defining who I am as an individual outside of my industry too, I still don't stray from what I've done. So for me, I minored in sociology, so I'm very fascinated about people and their culture of why your beliefs are the way your beliefs, because they may be different than mine, and that is perfectly okay as long as it doesn't harm what I'm doing. To each his own. But I want to know why on certain things to get a better understanding of what that really means. It's because for me, it's not a harmful thing. For me, it was a glorified thing that I glorified, not because someone made me do it, because I felt comfortable expressing myself in an artful way. That was my art. That's how I express myself. But in hindsight 2020, there's also what you're saying as well, and you're not wrong with all the different types of porn and what's being targeted to people's fetishes and this, and there's different, you know what I mean? And I'm on a smaller scale, but being so passionate and like having that opinion is why I wanted, to have that conversation.
I think the problem, particularly for me, is with black people and the way that black people are portrayed in an inferior power dichotomy where we don't rule or control any of the industries that we enter into, whether it's the music, whether it's athletes, the $1 million slaves that we know that if you can beat your wife and not get kicked out of the NFL, but if you kneel down, you're going to get kicked out of the NFL. My friend Colin got kicked out of the NFL. And I think one of the bigger problems that I have is when you are in a power dichotomy where you're at the bottom of that power dichotomy, then anything that is done at the top is not something that you now get the end result of. So you don't get the money for any of that stuff, but you are getting the deficits, you're getting the trauma, you're getting all of these things. The biggest viewers of ebony porn are white people, not black people, right? And so I don't think personally, I don't think that adults who want to make adult decisions are being led astray by pornography as an industry. But I do believe that what is being taught or what is being told to be accepted, for instance, so my friend David Banner, he's a music artist, right? And he made this music video, and in the music video, he made this music video, and in the music video, he killed a police officer who had killed a black man, like, who was unarmed. And it was off the back of the whole Mike Brown, Ferguson thing that was going on. And that was banned, right? I think it's back up now, but they had to fight for it to get back up. And it was taken off his Instagram and all of these things. And so that was banned. That was taken off. That's not okay, right? But the things that are okay are things that I think are very much the removal of black power, the removal of power of black people as a group, where there's the community red zone in here, there's the mass incarceration, there's the war on drugs. You know, black people are the bottom of the economic barrel, so to speak. And so when black people are now allowed in music videos to make kind of the most, not even allowed, they're pushed by their producers, by their labels to make the most highly sexual videos, but it's not creative. It's all the same thing. It's like copy paste.
Cookie cutter.
Right, exactly. Because sexuality and people have very different ways of expressing themselves.
And I definitely think it's overly sexual. Even for myself, I think everything now, like even in mainstream movies, is like almost like a softcore porn. Mm-hmm. It's like, why? But, you know, and that's why for me it's kind of like why I get the parallels and the arguments on both sides too. But being someone who has been in the adult industry prior to and forever till the day I die, probably, people will always be like, well, she's in porn. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what, you know, I mean, and that's so, whatever. Mm-hmm. But the thing now, it's like, now it's over saturated. It's over, like now every video has to be your thongs out, you're half naked, you're doing, it's like a pre-porn thing. Mm-hmm. So in that part, I understand because it's not factual. It's overstimulating people's minds in a ways that you shouldn't. Mm-hmm. But that's why it's like, but where do you draw the line?
I think you draw the line where you start to remove power from people who aren't the actors and actresses and the creatives, the script writers, story writers, and give it to corporations who don't have a clue what's going on. So then you create, for instance, the beauty industry, the makeup industry. That's why Rihanna's doing so well with her Fenty Beauty, where she's now taking back some of the end result of her beauty and her femininity and her leading women to products, whatever products those are, right? The makeup industry and the fashion industry are not controlled by women, but women are, let's say the wigs and the weaves. You know, some Korean man or some Indian man has an entire business based on black women's hair, and we don't control any of the end result of that. Alcohol is another one. So we're massively addicted to alcohol, and at the same time, we don't own really many alcohol companies. You might have like a Diddy or a Jay-Z or a LeBron have something, but as much as we consume, we don't produce. And so I'm also not saying let's mass consume things that are going to be degenerative for our health, but at the same time, if we did, we might have more influence into what we're consuming. And that's my problem, is that if you are expressing yourself sexually, let it be sexuality of your own creativity and have whatever spirituality or whatever you just want to fuck somebody, that's fine. But if it's like some crazy geek with some wild fantasy who's just super rich and he's just getting you to do crazy shit and then creating trends where people are just fostering craziness out of somebody's mind who's just got money, that's the problem.
For sure, and I agree with that. I mean, I just had 2 episodes earlier today that I found about fetishes that I've never even knew existed, and it's all based off of idealisms of what you're speaking of. So I get it. It's because someone's bored, someone's too overstimulated, someone's too this, whatever, and they want to say, hey, now this is a trend. So I mean, I understand that and I respect that. But yeah.
It's only a problem when somebody who just has a fetish or a trend or whatever then has money to turn it into an industry. And if we haven't sat down and done a psychological evaluation of this person, for instance, we haven't sat down and done a psychological evaluation of people that say that, you know, it is okay to have sex with animals, right? But then now somebody's got, you know, $1 billion and said we're going to bang out all of these movies and now this is going to be the thing.
Now it's like, okay.
Right. Then it becomes an industry and people are working in that industry and being exploited because of somebody is crazy.
Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't do any of that. But no, I definitely had to ask. For me, it was like one of those, I was, you know, I'm definitely intrigued. I love having conversations like that to, it's, you know, to even just to have growth on even my inside of who I am and what, you know, my, you know, obviously it's a belief system of how I create myself. What is something, or you can describe something that is exciting in your life right now?
I am building a village in Congo. And
I love how your smile just lit up.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I have adopted 22 children per my organization, I Heart Africa. And we are basically creating an agricultural community that Africa doesn't need aid, it needs trade. So we're creating an agricultural community that is connected to international trade. So
amazing.
That for me is like civilization building now. So now I get to say like, what fuel is being used and how the houses are looking and kind of what system is being used in that area for sustainable energy and all of these types of things. So we just started building yesterday 25 houses and we were going to build 100 in the area and we were going to build an orphanage and a school and
Very
it allows
cool.
me to get into my natural life conservation because that's where the last 250 mountain gorillas are that I went to go and see. And so it's like, for me, it's like, you know, when you look to ancient civilizations of old, and you see, oh, the Egyptians were building pyramids, and the Mayans were building pyramids, and you know these things in the jungle. It allows me to walk into that. So maybe, you know, I can now be building things that will last for. You start small, but eventually I'll be building things that last forever.
But that's what I feel like. It's like you're a doer. You do things. You know, you have to start somewhere to like be at all the things that you're saying. So I think that's really, you know, cool and a cool thing to be a part of. I think that's really neat. How do you, if you wanted to support that, how could you support what you are doing? Is there some kind of fund that we can support here at Private Talk?
I have the link in my bio on my Instagram.
Okay.
Also, I have a 501c3. So if anybody needs the tax thing, then we can do the tax receipts and we can use that to build houses. And I have my foundation called I Heart Africa, which is the 501c3, which has its own Instagram. And also, if you don't have money to give, then just share the stuff because we're sharing lots of beautiful pictures and videos of the kids and the work that's going on. So yeah, just get involved.
That's amazing. I love that. I definitely will make sure that we can share that and support you any way that we can. Is there anything you could instantly, if there was 3 skills you could instantly obtain, what would they be?
I would like to be a polyglot. I'd like to speak any language. Recently, I learned Swahili, which is what they speak in Congo. And I think there's a lot of brown and black and melanated people who don't speak any indigenous languages at all. And that in of itself, I don't think it was God's plan to make everybody speak one language. Colonization made everybody speak English or Spanish or French. But I think being able to speak a bunch of different languages, I'd be cool. I think also being able to play different instruments, but that's just time but
Do you play any instruments currently?
No.
None.
I don't have time. I never have time. And then the other skill, I think I would like to, you saying acquire or just have?
Acquire.
Acquire. The other skill I would like to acquire is I would like to know the medicinal use for every single plant that exists. Because
I like that.
In Ghana, we're about to build a plant medicine school over the next 2 years, and I'm going to learn. So that's cool.
I love that. You know, when you don't know something, you got to learn. There's so many, as knowledge is power. And I feel like that's really cool to want to implement that in what you're doing, but saying that I don't know what it is, but you know what? We can learn.
Right.
Because that's the only way it's going to get done.
Right.
Dating life, how is that looking?
I have a partner. She's amazing. I've been with her now for 2 years, and she is, I've never dated. Like, dating was never something I was into because I felt like every time you would go out with somebody in those types of settings or situations, you basically are not meeting them. Chris Rock put it really well, where he said, you're not meeting them, you're meeting their representative. And you're meeting all the good things about them, but not really meeting who they are. So I
especially the first time.
Right. So I very quickly stopped doing that and like making it an event. And I'm not really into, I'm an African man, so I'm not really into Roman antics, right? It's not kind of what I do.
Like romantics? Like being romantic.
But it comes from Roman antics, from Rome. I have nothing in my life has to do with Rome, apart from my language.
Okay. So, meaning, so are you not a romantic type partner? Sorry.
Oh, I'm definitely a kind and caring partner, but I'm not a chauvinistic kind of misogynistic, let me show you how much I can do with my money so that you can feel special for a day. I'm like, let me make you feel special.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily romantic. I think romanticism comes from more of like the thoughtfulness and like the planning of things and like where the intent is, not like what the intentions of something else means.
It is become tokenized though. It's become like that.
I mean, like when there's Valentine's Day and those days, of course, it's like over. Like, I mean, for me, I feel like if it's not every day, like I buy myself flowers every Sunday. Like it's not like it's something that should be like, oh, once a year type thing. I definitely agree with those things. But I feel like there's other ways that you may, as who you are as a partner, how do you show like being romantic with your partner?
I will say to my partner, let's go to Panama and swim with whales. Like,
so you're like spontaneous travel trip, like pack a bag, let's go.
Yeah, and also like making sure that my partner feels secure in our relationship and that she knows that she's beautiful inside as well as outside. And I think also being able to not just be a support for her, but creating a support system around her of people who she would never usually meet. Like, for instance, a lot of young women in LA in particular, they need mentors and they don't have mentors, and they should have. I have like 12 different mentors. I am humble enough to admit that I don't know.
I was going to say, a lot of that's ego.
Right.
Because everyone knows everything. Everyone,
right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when my good friend Maya, she's the singer Maya, she had broke something down to me in a way that I'd never thought of it before because I've never been a woman. She said that the reason why a lot of women aren't able to work together who are conventionally attractive, especially in acting and in modeling, is because since childhood they've been taught that a man is supposed to sweep them off their feet and is supposed to take care of them. And so in being told that the highest achievement for a young woman is to be married, other women then look like your competition, especially if there is a powerful man or a nice man. And that's why a lot of women then end up don't fostering meaningful relationships because they don't see each other as a village of women. They see each other as a competition.
I could see that. For sure. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I think that intentionally when you are with a partner or whatever, your lives have to collide or whatever. So it's like if that's something that you have in tune with yourself, who have mentors, it's important to keep that as a foundation for your partner as well. It's because as women, it is sometimes you don't have that, and it's cool to see that inviting in a way, because I feel like that makes your relationship be able to grow in a way more expansive way. I like that. Craziest fan interaction. Have you ever had a crazy fan interaction happen to you?
There's been many. And the thing is that fan is just Greek for fanatic. So we know where that is. And
Oh boy, do I know it. My fans can.
I bet. Because
I'm a strong lady, so nothing too crazy happens. But I've heard stories, and I've been a little part of mine. But as a male, though, you would think it wouldn't be as crazy.
Oh, no,
but I
no,
could
no, no,
see
no.
there's a lot of room for because you're such like a nice person and inviting. Like you're easy to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like So I feel like once they get an in, they're like,
right.
So
Yeah,
what?
no.
So what was the crazy story? Or the craziest?
The craziest. I can't even say on camera. There's been some crazy things.
You don't have to say the fan out. He's just gonna know.
No, I can't even say what happened. It's too crazy. But like some.
You're like, I'm currently in a legal battle. I cannot talk about it. Just kidding.
Right. I think the craziest. I was raising money. Because that's the other thing about me. I've been in the military. I've been on the roads. I've been in life that kind of has given me a toughness that most people wouldn't expect from now how pleasant I can be, right? But, I still consider myself a boxer. So if anything happens, then I'm going to fight. I'm
Well,
not
fuck
just
you
gonna,
up.
Yeah, right. You get taken around the corner. And I was boxing to raise money to build a hospital in Congo. And on my journey to doing that, there was a woman who decided that she was going to marry me.
Oh.
And I didn't know who she was. And so we would do some public workout events, and it was just on my Instagram, we're meeting.
Were
here
you a
to go
single
work
man
out.
at this time?
Was I even single? No, I wasn't single.
Okay.
And even if I was single,
I know, but that sometimes leaves for you're not, I don't know what happened yet, but I'm just saying it's like the openness of, but when you're in a relationship, you're like, no, okay, what are you doing?
yeah, no. So, and the thing is that most time people don't respect your relationship. Even if they respect
you would respect your relationship.
Yeah, no, of
they
course.
don't, but they're never going to. I used to be like, hey, are you married? Okay, it doesn't matter. He's not here. You're rude.
Right, no, I do. But at the time, we did some public workouts, and then afterwards we did some food so people could come and we'd eat food. But I was like, all right, cool, you guys can come. And anytime I was inviting people to meet me publicly, it was with
A bunch
30,
of people.
50 boxes. So it was just all my man them is yeah, whatever, come, because whoever can do
Exactly.
anything, there's back there. So this woman comes and
It's not a date.
she sits down. We've just worked out. We've been doing pull-ups and push-ups and sparring and all this stuff. And she sits down next to me and she's looked at me and she's gone, I'm going to marry you. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I'm sitting there, I'm eating my food and stuff.
Were you intimidated at that point? Or were you just,
there
there was a joke?
Yeah, I was just like,
Hawk
whatever.
laughed it off.
But she had her whole headdress on and she was and I remember she was sitting there with scissors and I'm like, why is she got scissors? She was trying to cut my hair. Oh. And I was like, why is she trying to cut my hair? Obviously, so that she can try and do some magic or whatever.
I'm like, she need a voodoo doll over there? What did she do to make you fall in love with her?
I don't know what she was trying to do. Anyway, I did the boxing match. So the boxing match comes a few weeks after or a month after. And I won the boxing match. And she came to the boxing match. And I had to hide from her because I was around, seeing people and stuff. And then I seen her. I was like, oh.
She's like, where's my husband?
Right, I was like, no, I'm going upstairs. So I went upstairs because I have to keep my mind right. I can't be let me deal with this crazy person. I've got to fight somebody. And then after the boxing match, I'm get my congratulations from everybody. Thank you for coming. We raised £100,000 to rebuild this hospital. The work had already been going on. So I'm really happy. And then after the boxing match, I just see this woman standing right at the end in the corner. It was
this
from
dark presence.
She was standing there and she was just shaking like this, and I was thinking to myself, not today, not today. And do you remember her? I was thinking to myself, not today.
It's I know that one.
Let me get out of here. So we just tried to get me to the car as quickly as possible. And as I was going out to the car, she'd intercepted me and she gave me this bag. And she's like, you need to take this to your house. You need to take this to your home. And I'm like, what is it? Is it a bomb? I didn't even look in the bag. I was like, what is this woman doing? When I got home, I realized that she had photoshopped pictures of me between her and her son and created a whole photo album of our future together. And she created many Instagrams, and it was crazy. And I was just like, I don't need that anymore in my life.
Were you frightened? Were you frightened? I mean, that's a little like, what is it, that movie that Whitney Houston was in?
Which one?
The Bodyguard.
Bodyguard. Oh,
Like,
yeah,
it's very like you're cutting things.
Yeah, no, it was a bit mad, and like to say that I think she'd got hold of like something of mine, and it was in the book. And I was like, how did she even get hold of that? And it's in the book.
She like took
I was like, get this out of the house straight away. I don't want this thing in my yard.
Bad juju.
Get this out of my house, out of my energy. And forever after that. Personally, I don't do that many public appearances or many public visits. I'll go out on my own to go and do stuff, but I won't be like, hey, I'm going to be here, because crazy people turn up, as well as beautiful people. So this interview is the first interview I've done in 4 years.
Oh, thank you for coming to Private Talk.
I'm going to do more because I'm building the houses and stuff, but I was like, people just expect me to do stuff, and they expect me to do stuff that they think that I should do, not stuff that I actually want to do or stuff I'm interested in.
Well, I appreciate that we're something that you're interested in, that you actually wanted to take the time to do that, because, you know, for me, it's one of those things is I want to talk to people too that I'm fascinated by, that I want to get to know more, and all those things. So it's like I hadn't seen anything really from you, and I don't like to widely watch interviews from people because I don't want it to take away from my own creative our conversation and what it is. So I'm happy that you took the time. Was there a reason why, other than just the fact that people thought to do other things for interviews, or that you kind of shied away from doing stuff?
I didn't feel like I'd done enough.
Okay.
A lot of people.
So you're hard on yourself.
Definitely, I'm a serial objective analyzer. So unless I think I have something to talk about, I'm not going to talk. Really, if I'm doing something and I'm like, we're doing this, I need to galvanize energy, we're building this, then I'll talk. But I'm not just going to be like, listen to me and my life and all of these things. Even my own relationship, it's not that important. Like, when you think of your heroes, you don't usually think of their relationship. You think of the work that they did when they were alive, or why they're your hero, not were they having a fight with their girlfriend or their boyfriend.
Yeah, but I don't think that it comes to the fight and thing like that. Like, so for me, is like, with my show, it's Private Talk, is that it's to get people like yourself and other people in different genres to talk about things that aren't just all the time that would talk about on other podcasts, and get you to open up a little bit more, is because, I don't want to know about your fight with your girlfriend, no, but I want to know you as a whole person, not just a piece of who you are. Your business and what you believe in is a piece of who you are, but who your whole life is, is a lot more, and it embodies, and to me, it makes you more real. More where I feel like I can connect more, where it's like, oh, like even with me, people are like, oh, I'm such, like, I love you, all these things. They don't know me. They know how I have sex. So for me, I'm like, if you don't have a conversation, then I can change that that narrative, and I'm great with that. That's why I love meeting my fans, and they're very interactive. But you just don't, you have to give, one thing I learned in my show is about the vulnerability. And one thing I never really had before is because I hid away from my persona, because that's just who it was. Now it's like showing a different side of Alexis, Texas, because there's multifacets to who I am. Like, porn was just one thing that doesn't define me. It was a part of who I was, but it's not, doesn't stop there. There's so many different things. So that's why I feel like with here, it's like asking questions about, maybe you want to know about your dating life. Doesn't stop there, but what makes you smile?
In this order: children, animals, and people being happy.
Biggest strength?
Fearlessness. I don't have fear when it comes to, I think that if you believe in God, then everything is in God's plan. So
fear is non-existent.
It's non-existent. So I think it's difficult to really believe in God and then have fear, because God has got you no matter what. And you are here for this time, in this reality, in this, whatever we call this reality, this liquid crystal VR projecting vessel for a short time. And while you're there, you should do whatever you spirit feels. And I think the fearlessness that I have has allowed me to travel to places most people would never go, and do work and make connections that has made me, I feel, interested enough in myself to be able to be happy. Because there's an African saying that says that a young man who has traveled is wiser than an old man who stayed in a village his whole life. So I feel like I'm there.
I believe that. I love that. What about what is your weakness?
No weakness,
one?
just
Well, do you
strength.
have one? I'm like, some people don't, you don't want to tap into that.
No, honestly, before I had weaknesses, for sure. I did inner work and got rid of them. I used to be addicted to sex when I was younger. Like, I spoke to a psychologist and she said to me, the reason why you're having sex is not reasons to have sex. And until I was able to go through that and understand it and go through that, I was useless because I was always trying to have sex, right?
Do you think you were a sex addict?
100%. During the time when I was in the military, 100%. And I had a girlfriend. And I was cheating
What was
on
the
her.
time length of that this existed?
Probably like
Like it was from when you started to have sex until you realized you had an issue?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the ways that I learned about sex, porn, because my father wasn't in my life and my mother was trying to raise 3 kids as a single mother. So she was open to conversations, but I also didn't feel like I could have conversations with her about sex because it's my mom. Mm-hmm. So I learned from some of the mandem who were elders and they were selling drugs and they were like criminals. They were just criminals. So the way that they looked at women wasn't in a way that was holistic, or it was just completely misogynistic. So I learned that way about women. Then my mom had taught me other things about women. When it came to sex, I was just like, that's what it is. You've got to like, try and have sex for the longest and do all of these things. And then at which point I realized that actually I needed to stop doing that because it was taking up my time from like doing useful
Other
stuff.
things, yeah. So at the time that I started following you, had you watched any of my porn, or did you even know who I was, or did you see that I was just following you because I was verified?
I saw that you was following me because you were verified, because there was this app at the time. It doesn't exist anymore, but you could just see who's verified and following you and who has a following. And I was like, well, I'm trying to do this thing in Somalia. I'm just trying to get as much energy there as possible. And then, but I've probably seen it. I used to watch porn when I was younger.
Well, a lot of people too, like I feel like how old are you?
I'm 34 now.
So I feel like it's like in that bracket of, I'm 36, about to be 37, but it's like, it was just, sometimes people watch porn and it doesn't need a name. It just was there to watch. It wasn't like, there's elite people that have real like fan base of obviously why Alexis Taxes exists of myself. But a lot of people, like when you ask them, like with dating wise, it'd be like, oh, well, I watched a lot of porn, but I just not like, I put a name to a face type of situation. Right. But I always wondered, but why I liked, you as well is because you always treated me as a person. Not that I didn't know any way if you knew what my porn was or not, but it was always like who you were as what you identified on the page, like what you like stood for. So I always I respected that, and like everything that you had, from like you sending me fruit and like you being a part of whatever, I thought was really great to be a part of, because of who I am, a lot of times, sometimes mainstream and things like stray away because, oh, well, you do porn, like, oh, I don't want to be like attached to it or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm more than just that if you want to talk to me, but I'm also get it too. Like, cool, peace. Like, I see you still watch my stuff. Whatever you want to say. No,
it wasn't that. I know what. So I have a lot of female friends from various walks of life. So something that I didn't share, when I was younger, just after I came out of the military, a close friend of mine was murdered in front of me. And some of the people that I believed should have helped me out at the time, because, he was murdered in front of me, I had his brains in my lap, like I was like in a very traumatic situation.
Of course.
Some of the people that I thought were cool and should have helped me out at the time didn't.
Left.
The only person that actually helped me out at that specific time was my friend Maya, who was a sex worker. And when I was in this kind of sex addiction phase, when I was like 14, 15, and I was selling drugs and all this stuff, a lot of my close friends were strippers and sex workers. And I found out very quickly that a lot of those people were the realest people because of the job that they do. There's just no bullshit. So then some of the...
straightforward as you can be.
Right, exactly. So then that had made me kind of judge that less, because at the same time, like, I was a little criminal. So I didn't have any moral high ground to kind of stand on. And even now, I think more my moral disposition is that of once you make an observation, once you make an observation, you have an obligation, right? And for me, doesn't matter where you're from. Everybody enters into a spiritual battle when they see something wrong and then they do nothing about it. And we're all hypocritical. We're all hypocritical by living in systems that are benefiting from colonialism, benefiting from sexism, benefiting from racism, benefiting from all of these systems that make some small echelon of humanity richer than everybody else, etc., etc. And I think it's being able to know how to point out what is wrong and do something about it at the same time as still find a way to love everybody.
Is there anything that you kind of regret that you never stood up for in that way, that you, or maybe you've revisited because it kind of stood out back in your mind and you were like, I maybe complained like you said and you didn't do something? Is it something that kind of stood out for you to go back to?
When I was in the army, women was always getting raped, but I never saw it. But you would hear after the weekend had passed, you would hear that there was a rape case going on, and this person's going to court, and this person's going to court martial. And when I was younger, my mother, she was abused by my father, and she's a survivor of sexual violence, and that led me to do the work that I do in Congo, where I'm supporting survivors of sexual violence. I'm taking care of children who are survivors of sexual violence. I'm putting them through school. I'm feeding them. I'm providing them with job opportunities, etc.
Amazing.
That made me, as a child, the man that I am now is who I wanted to be around me when I was a child.
Like a father figure.
Exactly. So I think that in of itself has become my life work, but definitely there was things that I had heard of and I'd seen when I was younger that I learned through society, etc. And there's things that I've done and that I was part of. Like, for instance, there's no reason to knock people out or just be violent or whatever. Obviously, in a boxing ring is different, but just to be violent or whatever when you could be a nice person. And so I think now I have aligned my karmic position back in balance. But before, you should never go to the army and train to kill people. That's not a real human cool thing to do. It's just society.
What society makes you believe, for sure. And what's crazy is I had a family member of mine, my family, part of my family was very in turmoil of what I chose to do. They didn't talk to each other for a while, but for me, I never asked them for their opinion, so it wasn't really heavy on my mind. But there was a family event that we went to, and my uncle, he told me, he was like, I don't want you to think that I ever judge you. He's like, I've done worse things of you, so for who am I to judge? Who am I to say anything different? Is we all make our own choices. It's who you are as a person, and that really stuck with me, was because that's, to me, is I say all the time, is we're all individual, we're all people, we all put our pants on every single day the same. As long as you respect me and my space and what I believe in, or not even necessarily what I believe in, but respect me, then we're fine. You know what I mean? As long as it's something else, and then that's just not for me as a human thing, kind. For me, it's I don't have to agree with what you're saying, but I can respect you as a person. I can respect who you are, in what you speak for. So I feel that a lot of people forget about just common decency and respect for one another, and fuck about who you voted for, what your beliefs or whatever. It's just finding a common ground of being human.
Right.
All love and peace and all those kind things that make us feel great.
I think you have to judge, but just you have to
there's always
judge,
going to be judgment.
But don't judge from a place of ego. Try to judge from a place.
But
of
that's
love.
the thing, is everyone has judgment in a sense, but to me, I don't think it's judgment. We have choices. You know what I mean? I can choose, even if you tell me how it is, doesn't mean I can have to sit beside you. I can choose to see I'm cool with knowing who you are, and when I see you, I will say hello to you like I do everybody else and respect you, but I don't have to support you. But again, I think we can all coexist with each other and what that means. And that's why I feel a lot of people, it's who are we to say, because I did something when I was in my 20s to my 30, who are you to say that I'm any different of a person than you are, he is, she, anybody, why are we different? We're all coincidentally the same. What are top three rules in your life that you abide by? Your code of honor.
My code of honor.
Chakabars, what are your code of honor?
Live clean so that your works can be seen. Because I remember, it's funny, a friend of mine a long time ago, he said to me, this is probably a UK joke and you probably won't get it, but he said, you can build 1,000 bridges and shag a single sheep and nobody's ever going to remember that you built a bridge.
True story.
And obviously I'm not into sheep or bestiality
or bridges
or any of that stuff. But now I'm a developer. I need to make sure that the way that I live reflects the work that I do. I can't be, people expect that what they see on Instagram is going to be what they get in real life with most people. But most people on Instagram are lying. Like, they're not portraying who they really are. It's just a piece of who they are. Me on Instagram, I've never done a paid promotion on my Instagram. So I say what the fuck I want on my Instagram. I do what the fuck I want. It's a free space. And it allows me to show the world a world that I want to create for people to think, right? So it allows me to do that. And if I am now like some crazy drug addiction, or I'm crazy something, it's going to stop people from seeing that thing. They're going to be like, yeah, I hear what that person's saying, but did you know this, this, and this?
You're crazy.
Right. And I ain't trying to do that. I'm trying to be as balanced as possible.
But I think that kind of aligns with, again, who you are. And I think that from, again, as an outsider looking in, from it's your life path. You know what I mean? Like, everything has been authentically, again, yes, there are people that who have an Instagram life, whatever. But I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character from knowing that, because I live in that world of seeing what that is. And again, I have done paid posts, but it's all based off what I want still, and nobody can dictate what I like. And so that's why I like your thing is you say what you want because that's what your belief is. And I think that that's what stands about who your fan base is and who your core is and what supports you, is because those people are too alike the same. Because people wouldn't find who you are, get the similarities if they weren't somewhat in tune with themselves on a path that's leading to where you're going.
Right, and I get, I've been ostracized many times. I have my Instagram account deleted. Lots of people won't.
But I mean, I think social media and all those things, I mean, and even media in itself, it's we're censored. I'm shadow banned. I have 5.9 million followers, but I'm still not seen by people. I get 20,000 likes on something because why? Because I'm not allowed to, and it's nothing that, in me, I'm the most PG probably fucking thing, that is because I know that just having my ass alone in the picture is going to get something that's a problem. And I'm like, I'm not even doing anything. I'm wearing clothes. You know what I mean? So I get it. And that's why I feel like maybe I empathize more with someone like yourself, is you have such a big message to spread where it's your reachability to be so much more not solicited because of what you're saying. And again, it's not not everything you're saying is a fact, but it's your belief, and that, and there's a following behind that. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
My truth is important for me. It doesn't need to be important for everybody else. And I have this thing where over the years, many people have said, I don't agree with everything you say, but I respect you. And the reality is, it's because I am a sovereign being in control of my own truth, and I do and say what I believe is true. And people resonate with it, then they do, and if they don't, then they don't. But I definitely ain't out here destroying people's lives and doing illegal mining and all of that stuff.
For sure. And it's not something, I think maybe because because speaking your truth isn't in a forceful way, it's like you said, you receive the message how you want to. And that's, again, living true to yourself and your spirituality and who you are as a human being, of why I feel like you are in the right path of where you're supposed to be. What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
Oh gosh, I have so many. I have so many good
Okay,
advices.
let's say, what's the best advice you've ever given?
Oh, now, the best advice I've ever given. I think the best advice I've ever given is to anybody and to everybody, is you can live with mistakes, but you can't live with regret. And I feel like a lot of the time people, rather than standing on their spirit and doing what they know that they have to do, or what their intuition is telling them to do, they do something that is influenced by conditioning rather than spirit. And so I think my best advice is always go with spirit, even if you think you're going to make a mistake, because if you don't want to be the old person with regret.
I love that. Do you remember your first celebrity crush?
Did I ever...
You had to have a celebrity crush.
Did I ever have a celebrity crush like that? You know why? Because at the time, remember I told you I was addicted to sex? Mm-hmm. I was having sex with whoever I wanted to have sex with.
So you weren't like really looking for like that other...
I didn't even see like a relationship as an idea, as something that I was interested in. I was just like, who can I have sex with? And
so were you just like a habitual like sexual person and not really had any relationships until recently?
No, I tried to have relationships, but when I had relationships, a lot of the people that I was with, they were in a place of maybe growth and change, or some of them
wrong time situation.
Right person, wrong time, wrong person, right time maybe. But I never. And then the thing is like now where I am, I'm friends with whoever I want to be friends with. So I've never really had that barrier of how do I get to that person, or how do I... So when I was younger, I was very much living in the present with the women that were around me. So I had, if you want to call them the baddies, they were all there. You
were living your dream at 15.
I was literally living my dream at 15. Like everybody who I thought was attractive, I wanted to be who I was with.
Okay. All right. I like that. All right, well, we're going to play Truth with Texas. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a little bit more racier for you. Don't be too shy.
Okay.
But we are going to do it. So how Truth with Texas works, if I can grab my cards over here. Mm-hmm. There are 4 cards. We will go through each card. Each one is an ace. Each ace suit is a different type of question, from romantic, kinky, naughty, and spicy. We'll ask a couple questions through each, and then, you survive.
Cool.
Truth with Texas. All right. Here you go. First card. What do we got? Ace of Diamonds. It's a spicy question. Mm-hmm. Let's see what we are going to know. Longest you've ever gone without sex?
7 months. Twice. Once when I was in Iraq, and once in 2020 when the world locked down and I was in Thailand, and I saw my partner that I'm with now like for a week before she then came back here, and I stayed in Thailand, and I was spending time with elephants, and I was happy. That actually was one of the clearest times ever in my life, was when I was just
celibate.
And I was abstaining by choice. Not like there wasn't options, but I was just like
Of course. Have you ever stayed in a relationship for sex?
No.
Have you ever fallen asleep during sex?
Yes.
You want to talk about it?
But not sleep like I've knocked out.
Like you knocked out?
Not sleep like I've knocked out. When I was having sex for just no damn reason at all, I just went into a trance and I just wasn't there. So I was having sex, I was still going.
Like, shock!
Because I haven't drank since I was 17 or 18. So I've always had stamina, I've always been conscious, but I was having sex sometimes just to have sex. So I was just having sex, going through the motions, but I wasn't there.
But you weren't there.
I weren't there.
Were they upset about it?
They was enjoying themselves. They
didn't know you weren't there, but
no.
weren't there.
I was not there. I was not present.
Let's see. Have you ever dated somebody older?
I've had sex with people older. I never dated somebody older though.
How many real relationships have you been in? I feel like you more because the whole sex addict thing. Mm-hmm. I feel and especially because a male thing, maybe because I'm biased because I'm a female, but you probably fucked a lot of ladies, but you weren't in real relationships, probably 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'll probably say real relationships, literally 4 in my life.
Yeah, I could see that for you. I don't know, I'm psychic or not, you know what I'm saying? But I just feel like when you're like figuring that stuff out, like you're not worried as much as like we're like sometimes females we are emotionally based driven.
Oh, I definitely was not emotionally
Exactly.
based.
So I'm like that comes for men and even like myself really emotionally it comes later on, but we think that you're emotionally ready for that as a female. We're just like, oh yeah. Different question. Have you ever been turned down for sex?
No.
No, never happened.
No, it hasn't happened because I haven't.
You don't put yourself in those situations.
No. If it's gonna be sex, then I know it's gonna be sex.
So if you know, you have good intuition.
Yeah, I'm very good at energy and also chemistry, so I don't need to try
You can read
to
the room.
force. Yeah, I don't force stuff.
Okay. All right. Next card. See, it's not so bad. I definitely lightened it for you. I have to. Ace of Spades is a naughty question, which is our favorite here at Private Talk. Handcuffs or blindfold? Back in your promiscuous days, or maybe now, do you still indulge?
I mean, I've been locked up before, so
blindfold.
so neither.
Does it give you some kind of PTSD?
Look, I was never enslaved, but I heard about the shit. So
you're like, no.
No, just no.
Do you like dirty talk?
Not really.
No?
No, because I think to get your mind into a space where you're sexually aroused, a lot of what that has become because of pornography, because of surface level conversations, like people like having small talk because they're scared to actually really go deep. The rivers will flow the deeper you go, right? And when you have somebody's mind kind of there present with you, you don't need to I don't feel you don't need to say stuff that's like shocking them to get them to that space. You can get them to that space naturally because they're just really into you. And that's why a lot of people have had climaxes, but not many people have had orgasms, because climax is stimulated and orgasm is God spirited. And a lot of people ain't having sex with God. They're just having sex like just to have a release.
I agree with that. And that's why like also when you heavily speak on like the sexual things, I can understand it when you dissect it in a sense like that is because it depends. Like people can have sex for different reasons. Like me and like in the porn, having sex was more of an animalistic like release of just whatever and no emotional content of what it meant to me. As my personal life is where I need those filling things of where if you don't speak to me, whatever, like the emotional level, and like I always say, like I'm demisexual. Like you have to be mind stimulated to me to make me actually want to be sexually stimulated to you, because it's easy just to be physical with anybody, but to be like sensual and to be like mind stimulated is a different level of growth. So I feel like it's a different higher expectation of orgasm than just being like, oh, this could happen.
Right.
Have you ever faked an orgasm?
Many times.
Many times?
Many times.
You know, why?
Because
I just realized that this was a thing. Like I had a conversation with one of my male friends. We were at dinner and he casually told me this thing because he was telling about a situation. And I was like, but wait. And he's like, why? Are you thinking about all the times that you could think someone could have faked it with you? And I'm like, no one's ever done it. And he's like, but you don't know. And I'm like, I really don't. But I didn't think that would be a thing. So explain to us, Chakabars, what's going on over here?
It's definitely a thing because, as I said before, I was having sex for reasons why you shouldn't be having sex. So therefore, I was having sex with people I shouldn't have been having sex with. So though they were...
But you say that, but were you stimulated at that time? It was just you couldn't, like, it wasn't satisfying overall.
No, and at the time as well, a lot of the time I was just doing it to... all right, this is the thing. This is a thing that a lot of people should learn. There's 3 different types of sex.
Teach us here.
Right. There's 3 different types of sex. I was taught this by my master teacher, may he rest in peace, Dr. Laila Olela Africa. There's 3 different types of sex. There is procreational sex. We know what that is. There is recreational sex, and then there is sex for regeneration. And what we keep doing is we keep doing recreational sex. So the Netflix and chill generation is here, right?
Boy.
And when you're having sex to recreate something, you're not creating anything. It's escapism. It's sexual escapism, right? The same like with ganja. If you're having ganja, and I've done it before because life is hard.
I love weed.
Right.
Shout out to my 420 fam.
if you are having ganja, right, and you are not meditating, not ever once, but you're having it, you're opening up gateways and you're letting in any kind of energy without having any control of directing that. And so just like alcohol, I tell people they shouldn't mess with alcohol because we call alcohol spirits, right? But people don't know what spirits. They just know, we're going to drink. And then afterwards, they're like, I'll never drink again. Right? And they do that often.
My
right?
gypsy's out. It's cool.
Right. And so when you have sex for procreation, you're making a child. When you have sex for recreation, you are making yourself stay in the same space, but you're not growing. And then when you have sex for regeneration, which is part of a technique that I learned many years ago called ejaculation, where nothing comes out, but you then rechannel the energy within yourself. That way, as a man...
Is this something that you do with a partner or by yourself?
Anytime, forever.
Okay.
So, unless I'm trying to make a child, I will do that. So, the thing is... So,
the intentions of what that is.
The intentions, but also physically, if you look at so DNA, for instance, sperm contains DNA. Each sperm has the equivalent memory or the equivalent information of 36 megabytes, and men ejaculate between 400 to 600 million sperm every time they ejaculate. So essentially, ejaculation is the equivalent of running 20 miles for a man every time he does it. You have to replace that potential life-giving fluid some way. And you just strip your whole body of all of its trace minerals and all of it. That's why you can have sex hangovers. As men, you can be having too much sex and you get headache and
I feel like females can do the same thing. They say you're dick drunk.
Right. And so when I learned about ejaculation, I have done it ever since. So since 2013, 2012, that's it.
But that's not the only way, or is it?
No, because there's procreation. So for me, there's procreation.
Because you have a partner. So I feel like if you were single, then I could understand the ejaculation because it's more, you said spiritual, right? Or
the thing is you can ejaculate but still achieve orgasm. So that's the thing is what we have with porn, for instance, is you have this whole idea that masculinity is attached to of the money shot and you've got to get coming out, right? But when you take that energy and put it back in, and it goes from your root chakra all the way to your crown chakra, it allows you to become in a state of sexual enlightenment. And that feels spiritual, it feels great. Whereas when you ejaculate, you just feel drained. So unless I'm actually creating a child, I'm not doing that.
But isn't that only a mind state, not a physical state? I mean, obviously it's both because you're in the ejaculation process, but I mean, again, myself, I'm spiritual, I meditate, I do all those things, and I know what my mind can achieve. But you're saying, because I thought that it was just only doing it inward and not actually ejaculating as well. But you're saying the two is, how do those two coexist? Because wouldn't you reach the same expansion if you were inwardly doing the work?
Ejaculation for procreation, ejaculation for regeneration. Recreation is something I don't even deal with.
But all of that's still mindset, isn't it?
Because
you're still ejaculating.
I'll give you an example. If you are trying to create a baby, right, and you are ejaculating to try and create a baby, you should be eating the best.
But are you doing this baby as an intentional purpose?
No, as an intentional purpose. That's the only reason that you should ejaculate. Because if you could ejaculate but you couldn't orgasm or you couldn't climax through an ejaculation, right? If there was no physical reward for ejaculation, the same as ejaculation, then I would say ejaculate. But because there's a better physical reward for ejaculation, and you achieve the same thing. You can have sex for as long as you want. And
See,
all
that's
of these
where I'm
things.
like, I get all of that. That's what I'm just saying. But wouldn't it still just be the difference of would be just be the mindset of what that is? Because you're still doing, obviously you're not doing it to have the baby. You're doing it for your own.
Ask any man after he's ejaculated.
This is a problem. I don't have a dick. I don't understand what happens to you. I can only think about my own sexual things.
Ask any man after he's ejaculated what it's like when he goes to the gym. There is no
They can't.
power
That's why I
there.
like when they, like, I get all that.
No, I'm trying to keep all my power.
I get that.
That's it.
I get that.
I need it. I have so many things to do. I have so much.
I'm busy. I can't be doing all of this. I get
I'm all
it.
tired.
I get it. Okay. You learn here at Private Talk. I like it. All right, next card.
Are we doing all the cards?
Oh, I told you we're doing every card. We're doing Ace of Clubs. It's a kinky question. Where's my kinky card? Okay. Any fetishes?
No.
Have you ever been in an orgy?
Yeah.
How many people?
Like 7 or 8.
Okay.
But it was strange though, because when I was those ages, and we didn't call them orgy though, we just called them gangbang. Like
I guess it's the same thing.
same thing, right? But when we was those ages, and there was lots of girls in the area who was promiscuous, and we was also promiscuous. We was seeing stuff on porn, and then we was like, right, let's go and do it then. For a lot of people at that age, they ain't able to recreate those type of things. They're just like.
And that's where I feel like when like the whole thing of like when they say like, oh, porn, again, I think it should be educational. You take what you can from it, but it's not realistic to everyday things, especially if you're doing it at the level of 15 something, whatever. Like you'll have no idea what the fuck you're doing. You think you do. You're trying to recreate a scenario,
Right.
but it's not anything what it's like supposed to be.
It didn't. Looking back on it, it didn't make any sense. But because the thing is like there's no other guy in my fantasy, right? It's just not the thing. But there was a couple of my friends there, and then there was like, 4 or 5 women there as well, and we were swapping women and whatever. But then I was like, I don't really want to ever be near my friend when he's aroused, because that's just not my type of life. But
Yeah.
I was 15 and it was.
But
going
if
on.
you were in your situation where it was you and like the 7 different girls and not your friends, all for it at that time.
100%.
And I think that's a lot of the thing too, is like why I feel like it's unrealistic with the porn thing as far as like the partner situations, is because realistically you're the like not a lot of people like to fuck people with their friends. Like it's not really common. You know what I mean? And like in porn they usually probably aren't friends.
Right.
They don't know each other. It's all a stage situation. So you try to do that thing, and then even with the girls it's like, I don't want to fuck your friend because what if I like you? And then you think I want to fuck your friend.
Right.
So now we're creating all scenarios that aren't even warranted because people just want to fuck.
And then people think that they can bring that into marriage, and it doesn't work.
Oh, that definitely doesn't work. I've been married. I've been divorced happily, and we're here. All right, last card is Ace of Hearts, which is a romantic question. Would you consider yourself a romantic?
I'm not into romantics.
Okay. Biggest turn on? How
How
did your lady get your attention?
She had a pure soul. She was a very beautiful spirit. And she's also plant-based. I've been plant-based for many years now. She's also plant-based. And the crazy stuff in the world that I saw, she allowed me to, because she didn't know a lot of the stuff that I was even speaking about at the time. She knows more now. She allowed me to escape that in just happiness and joy. And that's why I like spending a lot of time with children and animals, because they don't think, oh, what's going to happen in 10 years' time, and all of the...
They haven't been exposed to as much, life, that sometimes makes us a little bit more jaded in certain topics.
So biggest turn on is pure soul and confidence. If somebody's not confident, then it's just like, it's not good.
Not good. Favorite place to be kissed?
For what?
For like, I'm like, what do you mean?
Are you talking sexual? Or are you talking spiritual?
Spiritual.
Spiritual, right here.
I like that. Let's see. Last question. Perfect date night for you. You're a busy man. You have a lot going on, but you like to, still make sure your lady's perfect. What would be a perfect date night for the two of you?
Perfect date night, I think, is a fire on the beach in the tropics and music and friends and dancing.
I like that. All right, that concludes Truth with Texas. You did a great job. Thank you so much for participating. Is there anything you would like to ask me?
Yes.
What would you like to ask me?
I would like to ask you, do you now, having as many people in the world as know who you are, do you feel responsible now that you have the same attention as queens of old would have? Do you now feel responsible to do more on this earth for the people of this earth?
That's a loaded question in a lot of ways. If you dissect it in certain things, I would say that doing what I chose to do just because I gravitated to it was something that I enjoyed. I didn't know I would have as much reach and a platform that I would have based off of a sexual background. So sometimes it is intimidating to know the reach that could be, and also the potential of knowing what people think of me in certain levels. The more personal work I've done, it's not about what other people's opinions are. It's about living in my truth and living who I am. My biggest part of what I wanted to continue to be of who I am is this last year was about showing a more vulnerable side of myself that people haven't really seen before. And my podcast has kind of given me my voice back of where people saw me in a light of physical form, but now this is giving me where it's uncensored. It's my own opinions. It's not edited. It's not anything like that. It's based off my thoughts, and it's given me more liberation and freedom to want to do more. I still teeter in lines of not really knowing what that means, is why I gravitate to people like yourself who are so vocal about doing and changing more. And I look up to people like you and I want to do more. I think part of just clicking and following those 5-6 years ago was a part of my start to how I will do it eventually. Everybody's time frame is a little bit different, but I think the inspirations of having conversations like this and knowing that the only limit is myself is rewarding in itself, of knowing that I can do more and I want to do more. So I feel like I don't really know what that ultimately means in a broader spectrum, but I know that there is a bigger meaning for my life to have purpose, to give people knowledge of not only that you could be sexually liberated and still want to do more and give back and use my platform for that, but just to give back what I'm supposed to be, because that's what God sent me here to be for. So I think also in the last 2 years I've been more spiritual. So I've been more in tune with my intuition and my callings of what I provide for the planet and what I want to do. So I feel like I'm still kind of navigating what that journey really is. But I know that definitely I have a lot more work to do.
We all do.
For sure. Yes. Well, thank you so much. I definitely enjoyed our conversation. You are an authentic human being that I'm definitely glad that I got the chance to have you here with us. I think that everything that you have going on is really inspirational, and especially with myself wanting to do more. So thank you for coming and taking the time, and please let us know again where we can follow you so we can support what you have going on.
Chakabars. You might have to put the full thing in because sometimes they hide it, but it's Chakabars. Follow that page. And right now we are raising money to build a orphanage and a bunch of houses for people who had their houses destroyed by a volcano eruption in Congo. Congo is in Central Africa, for all those people who don't know. And it is the most mineral-rich country in the world. It is the poorest country in the world at the same time as being the richest country in the world. So GDP, it is the poorest country in the world. People there, on average, earn between max $400 to $800 a year, but at the same time, it has $24 trillion of rare earth minerals in the ground that will never dry up because there's loads of volcanoes there. And so I think that as a result of what's been happening in the Congo, from where Silicon Valley started, from where all these big tech companies have been getting their minerals from, there has been a human cost has resulted in that excavation of minerals, where in the last 20 years in Congo, 10 million people have been killed. So it is the biggest genocide and the biggest loss of life since World War II that's not being spoken about, because we, with all of these electrical, I've got my phone in my pocket, all of these electrical things, we are benefiting from some people suffering, but because we ignore social forces that benefit us, we don't really inquire as to how we can change that, because it's benefiting us. Because without a media platform and the internet, nobody'd know who I am like that. So I think that while we have access to these things, as well as, you know, making ourselves money and telling people our message, we also need to make sure that the people that we're benefiting from also
we
benefit.
give back, for sure. I love your message. I hope that we can hear with, even, you know, when we put the podcast episode out, people go and support and join the movement. I definitely will be supporting to your cause. I appreciate you for taking the time and letting us know your message. And yes, thank you. And until next time.